Most men want to be seen. That's why they never are. They talk louder, they posture harder, they perform masculinity like it's an audition. And the room still ignores them. Because attention doesn't respond to effort, it responds to containment. The men who actually shift a room don't announce themselves. They don't need validation or permission. They don't even need movement. They're already being felt before they're noticed. If that bothers you, good. This episode isn't for men who want to be liked. It's for men who want that frame that I know you've always desired. Click the link in the show notes, brothers. Let's start the podcast. You guys are listening to the Masculinity Show, a podcast for introverts to become more masculine and get the body of an alpha male, and of course get more mentally healthy and get that seducer's mindset, if you get me. And lastly, I help guys become more desirable and get the mindset of a seducer. Let's get into the podcast. Why being seen makes men weak. Now, I'm going to tell you about something real quick. Last Thursday, I was a bit under the weather, so today I'm back to my podcast. So if I sound a little bit lighter than usual, it's because I'm still getting over like a fever, so stay with me. Anyways, I'm going to tell you all right now. This podcast is going to be a ceremony. The very last ceremony I'm going to do in a long time. Because I'm actually going to start doing more fitness podcasts, yes. And you're going to hear more fitness content. So, today's episode is called The Mirror Where She Dances Like No One's Watching. Okay? Now, the point is I'm going to get back to this part right here. Why being seen makes men weak. Okay, now, back to this, right? Let me say something most men really hate hearing, right? The desire to be seen is already submissive. The moment you want her attention, you've handed her the authority to grant it. That's why chasing confidence never fucking works. That's why presence hacks feel hollow. That's why confidence tricks don't work either. That's why men confuse visibility with power. Power doesn't ask for witnesses. Power assumes them. There's a difference between performing masculinity and holding a position that makes performance unnecessary. Most men never learn that difference. They just get louder. The point to this part, you guys, is to remember that you shouldn't have to be seen. Now let's keep moving forward. Part 2, why most masculine advice neuters men. Now, before I get into this content, you guys, do me a favor, leave me that 5-star review. As you already know, I have my book called How to Embody the Rake's Mindset. And yes, Project X is coming. So, keep coming back to my podcast, but you guys listen to me. I want you to understand that everything that I'm telling you today is going to be a little cheesier than normal, so I need to get to why most masculine advice neuters men, okay? I'm going to stay in my polarizing tone, so stay with me. Most modern masculine advice doesn't fail because it's wrong. It fails because it trains men to leak authority. It teaches expression over containment. Which, by the way, I do say self-expression is important in my very first dating ebook, but again, containment is also just as important as that. So let's keep fucking going. Venting over holding, being vulnerable in all the wrong ways, right? Explaining over occupying. Men are told to show confidence, to signal intention, to clarify desire. That's not power, that's advertisement. And advertisement only exists when the product isn't assumed to be valuable. A man who has to explain himself has already lost frame. Check out my podcast, you guys. It's called Congratulations, You've Just Explained Yourself Out of Attraction, or something like that. It's a good one. It has this hilarious ceremony called the Adam Phenomenon. But anyways, a man who needs to be understood is already subordinate to the listener, right? That's the part nobody says out loud. Masculinity used to be positional. You didn't perform it. You inhabited it. Yes. Now, it's behavioral, right? If you say the right thing, post the right way, express the right vulnerability, you're told the world will respond differently, right? But polarity doesn't respond to behavior. It responds to orientation, to whether you are centered or orbiting. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment you seek approval, or even subtly seek any approval at all, you collapse the field that makes desire possible. That includes trying to be impressive, trying to be transparent, trying to emotionally be accessible, right? Trying to be safe before being solid. Safety without gravity is invisibility. Men are taught to confuse openness with availability. They are told silence is toxic, mystery is manipulation, and restraint is repression. That's convenient, right? Because a man who empties himself constantly is easy to read, easy to predict, and easy to dismiss. The men who create real polarity don't express more, they interrupt less. They don't narrate themselves. They don't preempt misunderstanding. They don't rush to clarify intent. They let tension breathe. They let the other person do meaning making. That's not cruelty, that's leadership. Most men think being seen means being visible. It doesn't. Being seen means being felt without explanation. And that only happens when you can sit in silence without collapsing into performance. The moment you stop needing to be understood by anyone, your presence becomes heavier. And that's where the real problem starts for everyone else. Part 3. The mirror is where identity leaks. Here's something most men never notice. People behave differently when no one is watching, except they're never really alone. The mirror is the one place performance drops, without the audience disappearing. It's where identity rehearses itself, not for approval, not for attraction, but for alignment. That's why people linger there longer than they admit. That's why posture changes. That's why expressions soften, sharpen, repeat. The mirror isn't vanity, it's calibration. A woman doesn't dance in front of a mirror because she wants to be seen. She dances because the mirror lets her feel herself without negotiation. No social contract, no response required, no risk. It's the one place desire exists without consequence. And here's where most men misunderstand power. They think presence means entering the scene. It doesn't. Presence is what holds the scene steady while it unfolds. The most dominant position is not participation, it's authorship. Now, we're to transition here over to the silent observer position. It's a position that doesn't interrupt the mirror. It doesn't comment. It doesn't praise. It doesn't correct. It simply exists as the unspoken constant. Not watching to take, not watching to act, watching because the frame is already his. It's already his. This is where polarity flips. Because now the movement isn't for attention, it's for resonance. She isn't performing to him, she's aligning around him. And that distinction changes everything. This isn't fantasy, this isn't voyeurism, and it's not pursuit. It's the difference between a man who enters scenes and a man scenes quietly reorganize around. Once you understand that, you stop trying to be seen. You start understanding why you already are. Now, rhythm is not music, it's permission. It's part 4. Most men think music creates emotion. It doesn't. Music creates permission. Permission for the body to move without justification. Permission to feel without explanation. That's why rhythm matters more than melody. Rhythm bypasses the part of the mind that negotiates. When rhythm locks in, the self-monitor shuts off. That's when posture changes. That's when hips move without instruction. That's when identity stops managing itself. Here's what most people miss. The chorus isn't the climax. It's the release of restraint. It's the moment the body says, fine, I'll stop pretending. And that moment is repeatable, right? Not because of the song, but because of the state it unlocks. This is why the certain songs don't just get remembered, they get revisited. The body recognizes the doorway before the mind catches up. That's also why silence right before the chorus is sometimes more powerful than the chorus itself. Anticipation does more work than sound. And here's where the mirror comes back in. When the rhythm takes over, the mirror stops reflecting appearance and starts reflecting permission. She isn't checking how she looks, she's checking whether she feels alive. A man who understands rhythm doesn't rush the moment, he doesn't interrupt it, he doesn't announce it. He lets the body cross the threshold on its own, because once it does, it remembers who allowed it to happen. And that's the difference between noise and a signal. Now, the red signal, fire without romance. Up to this point, nothing has been emotional. That's deliberate. Emotion is noisy. Signals are quiet. The red isn't about lust. That's the lazy interpretation. Red is the body's yes before the mind explains why. Blood, heat, pulse. It's the color the system uses when something becomes real enough to feel. Fire works the same way. Fire doesn't persuade. It doesn't ask. It doesn't convince. It marks. It says, this moment matters. That's why people light candles without knowing why. It's not tradition. It's instinct. Here's the important part. The fire isn't for her. It's not a message. It's not a broadcast. It's a boundary. A line the body recognizes as intentional. Once fire is present, the nervous system stops treating the moment as casual. Something is now held. This is where men usually ruin it. They add meaning, they add fantasy, they add intention layered on intention. That kills the charge. Fire only works when it's clean. One signal, one moment, one explanation. Red plus rhythm creates readiness. Not excitement, not anticipation, readiness. The kind where movement happens without permission being requested. At this point, the field is set. Nothing has been done. Nothing has been asked. But the body knows what's about to begin. Next comes the shift from observation to authorship. Not acting, not entering, naming. Entering phase 4. Now you guys, this is where it gets good, right? It gets good right here. It gets fucking good. So, what comes next isn't just a technique. It isn't visualization, and it isn't something you try. It's a position. Phase 4 exists for one reason. To charge the field of being seen without pursuit. Not to make someone react. Not to produce behavior. Not to force emotion. Reaction is cheap. Presence is not. Phase 4 is where observation becomes authorship. You don't keep watching events unfold. You start defining the frame. They unfold within. Okay, I'll say that again. You stop watching events unfold and start defining the frame. They unfold within. Now, that's the shift most men never make. They stay stuck in response mode. Waiting, hoping, interpreting. Phase 4 removes the waiting. Here's what phase 4 is not. It is not manifestation. It is not fantasy rehearsing. It is not emotional processing. It is not seduction by effort. Those all require need. Phase 4 requires containment. Containment is what allows desire to reorganize itself, or I should say organize itself. When nothing leaks, no explanation, no shakes, no demand, tension has nowhere to go but inward. That's why this phase feels quiet, almost boring. Not really, but you know what I mean by that. At this point, the environment is ready, the body is ready, the frame is sealed. Nothing else needs to be said. What follows doesn't need commentary. It needs precision. This is where the ceremony begins. Okay, brothers. I'm gonna start this fucking ceremony. So, listen to me, you guys. Do me a favor. I want you to have this song by Shania Twain. And yes, I know it might be a little cheesy, but listen to me. I've done this several times. Girls love this fucking ceremony. Believe me, I've done it several times. I know it fucking works. So just take my word for this, okay? If you're gonna be that stingy, go to a different podcast then. Do when your reflection becomes dangerous. You like the red candle. Yes, that one. But anyways, let's do this. The mirror where she dances like no one's watching, but I am. This is phase 4. Seduction rituals to trigger emotional attraction. Yes. Before anything begins, understand this. This only works from stillness, not effort, not imagination, not validation seeking, not wanting. If you don't already know how to hold silence without anxiety, how to remain present without leaking intention, how to observe without hunger, then this will feel like words. That posture is the Rake's mindset, not charm, not manipulation. This is orientation, yes. If you already embodied it, your body will recognize what comes next. If you haven't, let this show you the gap, okay? Grab the Rake's mindset, you guys. How to embody the Rake's mindset in the show notes. Link in the description, and let's start the ceremony now, okay? Stand grounded, feet planted, jaw loose, eyes steady, half lidded. Light a red candle in a little bit, but let's go. Inhale for 4. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. Do that again, okay? Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Again. Feel your pulse slow until the room begins to sinking to it, right? That's the rhythm starting, as I talked about a little bit ago, right? The rhythm begins in me, okay? As the music starts with the song by Shania Twain, just sit still and be calm, right? Don't sway, don't anticipate, don't lean into the moment. Contrast is forming now. Her sparkle exists because your stillness holds the frame. Her light dances because my calm contains it. If there's a mirror, let it be there. Best to do it in front of a mirror, you guys. As podcast title is. Okay? The mirror where she dances like no one's watching, but I am, right? Her sparkle exists because your stillness holds the frame, right? As I said. Let's go. You're not entering the scene, you're authoring it. Right here. Now we start. Get to the mirror and just confidently just say this with certainty. There she is, fixing her hair, adjusting her straps, twisting at the waist like it's nothing. Like it's just a normal morning. But you know better. It's Friday, loves. You know that when that song plays, she doesn't just hear it, she feels it. She doesn't just dance, she comes alive. That little spin she does in the mirror, that's for me, right? That's not for the room, that's not for the world, that's for the part of her that remembers what it feels like to be seen without being chased. She thinks no one's watching, but you are. Not intruding, not interrupting, present. Now as the chorus hits, da 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 da, let's go. You know that song, right? Yes, just play it, okay? Believe it or not, a lot of girls really like this song, okay? Let's go. Light the candle and the chorus. Not dramatically, not ceremonially, clean and exact, just the right way, right? Let the flame flare once. Feel the vibration settle into your chest. Hum lightly, just enough to feel resonance, not melody. Now, as get to the next chorus, second chorus, right? You glow because I burned the shame out of you. You smile because I haunt the edge of it. So turn up the music, swing your hips. Just let that know that mirror is mine now. and you let the chorus run. Let the body do what it already knows how to do. The pairing is unlocking now. Sound, flame, image. Not consciously, somatically. So go ahead, as I said, turn up the music, swing your hips, but understand something. That mirror doesn't belong to chance anymore. It belongs to that frame that never needed to enter the room. She doesn't know when this started. That's the point. She knows that when she feels alive like this, something familiar is present, something steady. As the final chorus fades, you guys, want to hear that final chorus, right? That final chorus. Smirk just a little slightly, right? Whisper just a little audibly, right? Keep glowing, loves, but don't forget who gave you that mirror. No demand, no chase, just the suggestion that lingers longer than clarity. Then blow out the candle and look into the mirror and say this. You know how much you enjoyed that, and wink.